My beloved child, don't skip this message. Listen carefully because these next few moments may speak to the deepest part of your heart. Stay until the very end because every word leads to a life-changing realization. This is a fictional, inspirational story written in the style of a dramatic YouTube narration. It is not a literal message from God or a prophecy, but an invitation to reflect on faith, hope, and the strength to keep moving forward. Imagine that after another exhausting day, you finally find a quiet place where the noise of the world begins to fade. Your heart has been carrying questions for so long that you have almost forgotten what peace feels like. You have smiled through pain, hidden your fears behind brave words, and continued walking even when every step felt heavy. In the silence of this story, you imagine hearing a gentle voice saying, "My beloved child, before you walk away from hope, stay with me for just a moment. Do not turn away from what can still be learned, healed, and transformed." Those words stop you in your tracks. You realize how often you have looked for answers everywhere except within your own heart. You searched for certainty in people, success, and circumstances, yet true peace always seemed just beyond your reach. You began wondering whether your struggles had any purpose at all. But what if every difficult season was quietly shaping the person you were meant to become? Listen carefully because this changes everything. The imagined voice continues, "You have counted every disappointment, but have you counted your victories? You remember every closed door, but have you noticed the doors that opened just when you needed them most? You focus on the storms you survived, yet you forget the strength those storms awakened inside you. What happened next changed everything. Instead of seeing their life as a series of failures, the person in this story began seeing it as a journey of growth. Every setback had taught resilience. Every delay had developed patience. Every tear had deepened compassion for others who were hurting. They realized that while circumstances had not always been easy, their heart had become stronger with every passing season. Stay until the end because something beautiful is waiting for you. As the days passed, they stopped asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and started asking, "How can I become a source of hope today?" That single question transformed the way they lived. They encouraged people who were discouraged. They forgave old wounds that had weighed heavily on their heart. They found joy in ordinary moments that once seemed insignificant. My beloved child, this story reminds us that hope is not the absence of difficulty. Hope is choosing to believe that goodness, kindness, and love still matter even when life feels uncertain. Every sunrise offers another opportunity to begin again. Every act of compassion becomes a light in someone else's darkness. Every choice to keep going becomes a quiet victory. Listen carefully because this is only the beginning. In the next chapter, the person discovers that the greatest transformation does not begin when the world changes around them. It begins when the heart chooses faith over fear, gratitude over bitterness, and love over despair. Stay until the very end. The most powerful chapter is still to come. My beloved child, don't skip this message. Listen carefully because this chapter takes you deeper into the journey. Stay until the very end because what you discover here changes everything. This is a fictional, inspirational story written in the style of a cinematic YouTube narration. It is not a literal message from God or a prophecy, but an invitation to reflect on faith, hope, and the quiet strength that grows through life's challenges. As the story continues, the person begins thinking about all the times they believed they had been forgotten. They remember the prayers that seemed to go unanswered, the opportunities that slipped away, and the moments when they almost gave up. Every disappointment had left another question in their heart. Every delay had made them wonder if their future would ever become brighter. Yet even in those difficult seasons, they continued taking one more step, even when they could not see where the path was leading. Listen carefully because this changes everything. In the stillness of this story, they imagine hearing these words, "My beloved child, do not turn away simply because the answer did not arrive when you expected it." The seasons of waiting have not been empty. While you were looking for immediate results, your heart was quietly becoming stronger. While you thought nothing was changing, wisdom, patience, and compassion were growing within you. Those words remain in their heart long after the moment passes. They begin to realize that the greatest transformations are often invisible at first. A seed does not become a tree in a single day. A sunrise does not appear all at once. In the same way, lasting growth often happens quietly, one faithful step at a time. What happened next changed everything. The person stopped measuring their life by how quickly circumstances improved. Instead, they began noticing how much they themselves had changed. They had become more patient with others, more grateful for simple blessings, more willing to forgive, more determined to keep hope alive even when the future remained uncertain. Those quiet changes became the foundation of a new beginning. Stay until the end because something beautiful is waiting for you. As they continued walking forward, unexpected opportunities began appearing, not because every problem disappeared overnight, but because they had learned to recognize possibilities where fear had once seen only obstacles. Their perspective changed, and with it, the way they experienced each new day. My beloved child, this story reminds us that life's greatest victories are rarely the loudest ones. Sometimes the greatest victory is choosing kindness after being hurt. Sometimes it is believing in tomorrow after a season of disappointment. Sometimes it is simply refusing to let fear have the final word. Those quiet moments of courage shape a life filled with purpose. Listen carefully because the journey is not over yet. One final lesson remains before the ending. In the next chapter, every challenge, every lesson, and every moment of hope comes together to reveal that the greatest miracle was never found in extraordinary events, it was found in a heart transformed by faith, perseverance, compassion, and love. Stay until the very end. The most inspiring chapter is still ahead. My beloved child, don't skip this message. Listen carefully because you have reached the chapter where every question you have carried begins to find a deeper meaning. Stay until the very end because what happens next changes the entire story. This is a fictional, inspirational story written in the style of a cinematic YouTube narration. It is not a literal message from God or a prophecy, but an invitation to reflect on faith, hope, and the quiet transformation that can happen within every heart. As the journey continues, the person looks back over every difficult season they have endured. They remember the nights when they felt completely alone, the mornings when getting out of bed took every ounce of strength, and the days when they wondered if their efforts would ever matter. Yet as they reflect, something unexpected happens. They begin to see that every challenge had left behind a gift. Patience had grown where frustration once lived. Compassion had replaced judgment. Wisdom had taken the place of fear. Listen carefully because this changes everything. In the silence of this story, they imagine hearing these words, "My beloved child, do not turn away from hope simply because the road has been difficult. The strongest trees grow through storms, not in perfect weather. The brightest light is noticed in the darkest night. And the strongest hearts are often shaped through seasons that no one else can fully understand." Those words settle deep within them. For the first time, they stop asking why life has been unfair and begin asking how they can use everything they have learned to help someone else. They realize that their own struggles have given them the ability to comfort those who are hurting, encourage those who are discouraged, and stand beside those who feel alone. What happened next changed everything. The person discovers that peace does not come from controlling every outcome. It comes from accepting that while they cannot change every circumstance, they can choose how they respond. They begin living each day with greater gratitude, greater patience, and greater love. The burdens they once carried no longer define their identity. Instead, they become reminders of how far they have come. Stay until the end because something beautiful is waiting for you. As the story unfolds, the person notices that opportunities appear where fear once saw obstacles. New friendships begin. Old wounds slowly heal. Small acts of kindness create unexpected moments of joy. They realize that hope often grows quietly, one faithful decision at a time. My beloved child, this story reminds us that true strength is not found in never facing hardship. It is found in refusing to let hardship steal your kindness, your compassion, or your hope. Every day offers another chance to begin again. Every sunrise is another invitation to choose faith over fear and love over bitterness. Listen carefully because only one chapter remains before this journey comes to its conclusion. In the final part, every lesson, every struggle, and every quiet victory comes together in a message of lasting peace, renewed purpose, and hope, reminding us that the greatest transformation is not changing the world around us overnight, but allowing our hearts to become a source of light for everyone we meet. Stay until the very end. The most beautiful ending is still ahead. My beloved child, don't skip this message. Listen carefully because you have reached the chapter where the journey begins to reveal its greatest lesson. Stay until the very end because what you are about to discover has been quietly unfolding since the very beginning. This is a fictional, inspirational story written in the style of a cinematic YouTube narration. It is not a literal message from God or a prophecy, but an invitation to reflect on faith, hope, and the quiet strength that grows through perseverance. As the story continues, the person notices something they had never seen before. The circumstances around them are not perfect, yet their heart is no longer filled with the same fear it once carried. The anxiety that once kept them awake through the night has slowly been replaced by a peaceful confidence. They begin to understand that true peace does not come from having every answer. It comes from learning to walk forward with courage, even when the future remains uncertain. Listen carefully because this changes everything. In the stillness of this story, they imagine hearing these words, "My beloved child, every step you have taken has mattered, even the ones you thought were too small to make a difference. Every time you chose kindness instead of anger, patience instead of frustration, and hope instead of despair, you became stronger than you realized. Never underestimate the quiet victories that no one else can see. Those words remain in their heart as they continue their journey. They stop comparing their path with the lives of others. They stop measuring success only by achievements that people applaud. Instead, they begin valuing the qualities that truly last. Integrity, compassion, humility, generosity, and the willingness to keep doing what is right even when it is difficult. What happened next changed everything. The person discovers that the greatest opportunities often arrive after seasons of preparation. The lessons learned during hardship help them encourage someone else who is struggling. Their patience helps restore a relationship that once seemed beyond repair. Their gratitude allows them to appreciate blessings they once overlooked. They realize that growth is often invisible until one day they look back and see how far they have come. Stay until the end because something beautiful is waiting for you. The story reminds us that every act of kindness creates a ripple that reaches farther than we can imagine. A gentle word can lift a discouraged heart. A forgiving spirit can bring healing where bitterness once lived. A simple act of compassion can change another person's entire day. These quiet choices become part of a life that truly matters. My beloved child, if there is one lesson to remember from this chapter, let it be this: do not turn away from hope simply because your journey has taken longer than you expected. The strongest character is often formed during seasons that test our patience. The deepest wisdom is often gained through experiences we would never have chosen for ourselves. Yet those very experiences prepare us to become a blessing to others. Listen carefully because only one chapter remains. In the final part of this story, every lesson, every tear, every prayer, and every moment of courage comes together in a powerful conclusion that reminds us the greatest gift we can carry into the future is a heart filled with faith, gratitude, compassion, and hope. Stay until the very end. The most uplifting ending is still ahead. My beloved child, don't skip this message. Listen carefully because we have reached the final chapter of this fictional journey. Stay until the very end because the most meaningful lesson has been waiting for this moment. This is a fictional, inspirational story written in the style of a cinematic YouTube narration. It is not a literal message from God or a prophecy, but an invitation to reflect on faith, hope, gratitude, and the quiet strength that grows through every season of life. As the story comes to its close, the person pauses and looks back at the road they have traveled. They remember the nights when they cried in silence, the mornings when they questioned whether they had enough strength to continue, and the countless moments when they felt like turning away from hope. At the time, they believed those chapters were only filled with pain. But now, standing at the end of the journey, they can finally see what had been hidden. Every hardship had shaped their character. Every delay had taught patience. Every disappointment had deepened compassion. Nothing had been wasted. Listen carefully because this changes everything. In the stillness of this story, they imagine hearing these words: "My beloved child, I never asked you to have all the answers. I asked you to keep your heart open. I asked you to continue choosing kindness when bitterness seemed easier. I asked you to keep believing that love, truth, and hope still matter. Every time you chose those things, you were already walking toward the person you were meant to become." Those words bring a peace they have not felt in a long time. They stop searching for dramatic signs that everything will be perfect tomorrow. Instead, they discover the quiet confidence to face tomorrow with courage. They realize that a meaningful life is built one faithful choice at a time. One act of forgiveness, one honest conversation, one helping hand, one moment of gratitude, and one decision to keep moving forward even when the path is uncertain. What happened next changed everything. The person no longer measured success by wealth, recognition, or applause. They measured it by the lives they touched. They became the friend who listened without judging. The neighbor who offered help without being asked. The family member who chose reconciliation instead of resentment. They discovered that the greatest legacy is not what we own, but the love and kindness we leave behind. My beloved child, this story reminds us that every new sunrise is another opportunity to begin again. Yesterday's mistakes do not have to define today's choices. Fear does not have to write the next chapter of your life. You can choose wisdom instead of impulse, compassion instead of anger, gratitude instead of complaint, and hope instead of despair. Those choices, repeated day after day, become the foundation of a life filled with purpose and peace. Stay until the end because the final message matters most. If you have been waiting for the perfect moment to start over, let today be that moment. If you have been carrying the weight of regret, begin laying it down by taking one positive step forward. If you have been longing for peace, remember that it often begins not when every problem disappears, but when your heart chooses faith, patience, and love in the middle of uncertainty. So lift your head, my beloved child. Walk forward with courage. Walk forward with integrity. Walk forward with compassion. Choose forgiveness when it is difficult. Choose gratitude when life feels ordinary. Choose kindness even when no one is watching. And never underestimate the difference one faithful step can make. Because the greatest transformation in this story was never about changing the world overnight. It was about allowing hope to change one heart. And from that one changed heart, kindness spread to family, friends, neighbors, and even strangers. That is how light grows. That is how healing begins. That is how ordinary lives become extraordinary. May your heart remain filled with peace. May your words bring encouragement. May your actions reflect love. May your future be guided by wisdom. And may every new day remind you that no matter what yesterday held, today is another opportunity to live with faith, hope, and compassion. The story ends here. But your journey is only beginning. Walk into it with confidence. Walk into it with gratitude. Walk into it with love.